I've started.
All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. That's for sure. A lot of stuff has happened. And I'm, of course, referring to the death of Matthew Perry.
Yes.
Am I the only one that feels like super old when I hear about that kind of stuff? Like,
Yeah, I remember where I was when Friends debuted. You know what I mean?
do you actually?
No.
I was gonna say you're no chance. By the way, we didn't even test my sound. Am I okay? Sound?
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
everything?
you're
We're
fine.
good.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I don't usually. By the way, guys, Jared James here. Welcome to episode 94 of Today with Jared James. For the record, okay, it's been a couple months since we've done an episode, and that was because we had everything going on with the advance. That's why I took a little bit of a break. I was on a content break. There was just a lot of stuff going on, right? And then also in my defense, although I'm usually joined by my lady Linda, she is in California. We did actually shoot an episode last week. It was right after the advance, actually, and was selfishly away getting back surgery, and the sound did not come. Okay. So we shot a whole episode post-advance, just kind of recapping the advance and everything that happened and all this kind of stuff. And it was, of course, all for none because we couldn't use any of it. So we did actually shoot another episode, but it was not able to air. So I guess that makes us relatable.
It lives in the archives now.
Yeah, it literally lives in the archives. That's actually like 100% true. So anyway, am I the only one though? Like seriously, like when stuff like Matthew Perry dying on Friends, like it makes me feel so old. Like, does anybody out there know what I'm talking about? Like Matthew Perry from Friends died between now and in the last couple of weeks, and it's just crazy. Like when I think about that, that is. Even when I saw him, like, in his last days, when they have photos, whatever, it's like, I always think of, like, the show, and he's this thin, whatever. You're just like, what? Like, it's like when I went to my high school reunion, and I was like, did everyone give up on life? Like, is this what I look like, and I'm just not aware? Like, what's going on here? Like, everybody was way overweight. Everyone just looked tired and whatever. I'm just like, oh, my God, like, what's going on here? Linda and I have a rule that we're not going to give up. That's like our rule. Like, we are allowed to be honest with each other.
Nice.
And like she said to me the other day, she goes, you promise me? You promise if like you thought I was like, things weren't looking, whatever, you'd tell me? And I'm like, well, I'd find a way to do it. I'm not just going to come right out and be like,
You look terrible today.
Yeah, right. Does this make my butt look fat? No, it's that your butt's in the pants. That's what makes, no. And I'm not referring to her, by the way. I'm just saying, like, it's that old adage, right? Like when someone asks that. So anyway, I don't know about you, but that's a good point. You weren't even around.
No. So, I mean, that's also, like, kind of a different thing also. Hi, I'm here.
Oh, Tom, want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, hello. But, yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help that he also passed away really, like, pretty young. 54 is not, that's
Appreciate
not.
you saying that. That is super young. I'm nowhere near that age, and that is still super young.
Right.
Well, I guess it was like a mistake, he had like a cardiac arrest, but he was in his hot tub.
Right.
And so it's not like just a regular thing where you have a cardiac arrest and then you're just out, like whatever, and they find you and they help you and they whatever. Like he drowned. It's like I always say, like the Cranberries. I don't know if you remember the Cranberries, but like I love the Cranberries. But she died in a hot tub.
Yeah.
In a bathtub
yeah.
in a hotel. Like so sad. Like that's just like
it's terrible.
Oof. Anyway, I do want to say, so today we're going to talk about, there's a lot that's gone on in the industry, and a lot of you who listen to this know that I talk about a lot of things on the podcast. The podcast is different than any other platform that I go into, and on the podcast here, we've had some commission cases and other things that have happened that I feel like I need to talk about, but we did shoot a whole episode post-advance and never released it, so I just want to say a couple things about that. Number one, the next advance is October 28th and 29th in Nashville. It's our last contracted year for Nashville. So I need to decide whether we're going to stay there, not stay there. I'm not sure yet, but early bird tickets are available right now. Just go to jaredjames.com/advance. You can not only get early bird tickets for Nashville next year, get them now. It's the cheapest you're going to see them, but you can also get the replay of the 2023 Jared James Advance. Right now, we're still on the event app. Are we at some point going to upload like the finished videos, like when they come in?
Yes.
So right now, if you bought the Advance, you're seeing it as it was actually shot live. You've got all the main stage stuff. You've got the breakouts. You've got all those things. But we have all of the professional videos being edited, and so the replay is going to be updated actually with the more professional, more whatever, like updated videos. That'll be coming, and we'll let everybody know when that is. But you can still buy it now. It's only $199. And then the app that you're watching it on will get updated, and you'll have all that new stuff. The advance this year was so great. Couldn't have been better.
Nice.
Tom wasn't there, in case anybody's wondering. Tom wasn't there. Tom, like I said earlier, selfishly had to have back surgery.
Selfishly,
Yep. Picked a time right at the advance.
Yep.
Go
Hand
get
selected
fusion,
myself.
Fusion back surgery? What is
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm now the bionic man. I have. I'm fused up, and that's how I'm living right now.
it? Are you actually is it a big difference? Like, are you feeling different?
I feel 1,000% different. Like from
Because you were hobbling around like you were older than Matthew Perry.
Yes.
Like you were like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
you were hobbling.
Yeah. No. It's a complete 180. I think is the right word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number.
I
I
hate
mean.
it when people say 360. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like,
I
that
actually-
just means you're exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that before actually.
Okay.
I've said 360
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
But no, complete 180. I don't want to say that I can't even remember what it felt like 2 months ago, but I do very
But
well.
you were down at, like, once you had the surgery, you weren't in the office for a while.
Right.
You couldn't drive. You just started driving again. You couldn't go to the advance. You
Yeah.
couldn't, all of that stuff. And so, we missed you, but I think the advance went over really well. I was most proud. I always say this, but it's just the truth. Like, so our team was great behind the scenes as far as putting everything together and making it a good experience for people. But I was so proud of, like, our coaches and other speakers because they did so good. Like, I had them speaking on the main stage, and I was backstage a couple times, and I hear people laughing, and I'm seeing the stuff they're teaching. And it's like most of these people are older than me, and I'm up there like a proud papa in the back. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is to be able to use the word of the modern day woke, to be able to platform these people and say, hey, you've got awesome stuff to deliver was so cool. And I was so appreciative of them for being willing, but also just to give them a chance to kind of give of themselves and showcase, their ability to teach and to have something to teach. And I was blown away, made me feel so good. And so that was really cool. And then when it was all over, we went to, by the way, so when it was all over, at the end, I did a closing keynote. My closing keynote, day 2, is the least attended keynote because it's the last one, day 2. It's the most entrepreneurial, personal, whatever. And that was probably one of the most personal, in-depth keynotes that I've given, in the sense that I was very open about a lot of things. I was, we were talking about financial and personal freedom. And I said, it's an interesting thing to hear from someone who went through a divorce a couple years ago, right? And so I got very in-depth on that. So if you haven't gotten the replay yet and you weren't there, you should probably go check that out. But I personally think it's one of the best keynotes I've ever delivered. The feedback I got from people was in line with that. They were just like, that was my favorite one, and to me, I was so transparent, so specific, so, that I think if you listen to this podcast, if you watch this podcast, and you're an entrepreneur, you're in real estate, you're whatever, that's one you're going to want to go kind of pay attention to and listen to. Because I think one of the things that I don't cover too much, we kind of mention it at times when it seems right to do it. But, I said it yesterday. We did our business plan training. And, we have thousands of people on there, which, again, is so freaking cool. But, like, I think that a lot of times people look at me and they go, oh, the real estate coach, the real estate speaker, the real estate whatever. And they don't realize, like, we have a portfolio of companies. Like, we have a bunch of different companies. And so we use this main one as a funnel to go into the other companies. And like I say all the time to our viewers, like, don't just watch what I'm doing. I mean, don't just listen to what I'm saying. Watch what I'm doing. Like, you should be doing the same thing, right, in your way of doing it. And so that particular keynote I thought was one of the most personal ones that I've ever given. It was so interesting because it was so quiet. Like, you have to know the difference between bombing and people, like, actually being intently listening. And I knew going into it that it was not my opening or my day one close or whatever, where it's just laughter, setup, hit, laughter, like whatever. I knew that it was a heavy, more of a serious whatever. And so I went on that stage knowing, okay, you better be cool with just silence, And yeah, that's kind of what happened. Silence. And then I looked out and I saw people crying, and which I'm used to, just because sitting in an audience with me is torturous.
Right.
Right.
People were like, God,
Yes.
what's going to end?
But I felt like it was the right kind of tears, And so that was that was a risk. And then we went out that night like we always do. I ran into my boy Gronk, which was crazy.
Wait, Rob Gronkowski?
It's brother.
Oh,
Gordy.
okay.
I still call him Gronk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
So little known story is that I'm kind of friendly with the Gronk brothers. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but years ago in Vegas, we were at an after thing together that I was contracted to be at. We ended up hanging out, me, Gordy, and Gronk, and we had a freaking night. Like, we had a blast. I was the third Gronk brother. When they invited me out, I thought they meant this whole crew, but it was me, Gronk, and Gordy. And we had a night. Like, I mean, it was a blast. And I look like a midget. Those people are humongous. Like, they're humongous. Gordy showed up. Gronk, he's 6'7". Like, he's just, whatever. And the next morning, I got a text from Gronk. This is back when he had the thing on his arm, the injury. Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, how you doing? I'm like, not good. Because, like, I don't go out like that, whatever. I'm like, how are you? He's like, I'm fine. He's like, have you looked online yet? And I'm like, did I look online? What does that mean? So I go and look online, and he sends me the link to CBS Sports. And it says something about Gronk brothers go wild in Vegas. And they were getting on him because he had just signed a $100+ million contract and he had this injury, but he was up dancing on this thing. And the Gronk brothers, they called the Gronk brothers, was me, Gordy, and Gronk.
Incredible.
Like, there we were, okay? And I'm like, this can't be. Like, this is not real, right? And then years later, so we stayed in touch, whatever. And then years later, I'm at another Vegas after party. I'm contracted to be there. I'm there with a company. But at the place, they rented out a club. And at the club, the VIPs, I didn't even know this, were the Gronk brothers, like the 5 Gronk brothers. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I text Gronk and Gordy. I'm like, guys, fellas. I'm like, are you joking? I'm like, I'm here. And they're like, get up here. And I'm like, I am not walking over and trying to talk some security guy into, I'm friends, I'm whatever. So Gordy came over and got me. Once again, I'm standing next to these giants the rest of the night. We had a blast. We had whatever. So after party at the Advance a couple weeks ago, I am we're having a blast. We're at that place we always go to. I forget the name of it. And all of a sudden, I see this person walking up to me, like just like an eclipse, because they're huge. And he comes up and he's like, JJ, and I look up and I'm like, Gronk, what the heck are you doing here? We have a blast. We have whatever. A couple of the people who are with us, Cisco's there, who acts like my bodyguard when I'm there. And he's like, wait, you guys know each other? Like, what is going on here? And I'm like, oh, we've hung, whatever. He's like, do I even know you? Like, what is going on? And so we had an absolute blast. It was fun. It was really good times. And so anyway, that ended. Very cool. Good time. But Advance was really good. But we're looking forward to having you back there next year. But unfortunately, you were not able to make it this year. But I'm sure you'll be there next year.
I think so.
There's no like chance of like you're back like acting up, right?
I really hope not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that like a potential?
I think maybe down the road. I've actually talked to a few people that have gone through it, and actually one person who he actually asked his doctor how long he expects this thing to last, and they told him 20 years.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So I was like, oh.
20 years.
So I'm looking at.
I thought you get it fixed and then it's fixed.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. But if by the time I'm 48 and it goes out again, I guess I'll know what to do.
That's
I don't
insane.
really know.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about what probably this podcast is going to be titled. Let's talk about. I want to talk a little bit about what's happened here with these commission lawsuits and all of those things, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now, right? And a lot of people are freaking out. They're not sure what to do, and it just seems like right now with our industry. It just seems like it's one thing after another after another. First, we had this stuff, with Kenny Parcell, with NAR, and where he basically was accused for some things that, I'm not going to go back in and retry it and do whatever. But I think you guys have heard my podcast on all of that, and I'm a lot closer to the situation than probably any of you listening. And I feel like he did not get a fair shake at all, and everybody, an industry that he absolutely gave his life to, volunteered the whole time, just couldn't wait to pile on and have another victim for him, turn him into like he was some bad guy and he's doing this stuff with whatever. I won't retry it all right now. But right after we follow that up, now you have all these commissions cases and everything, and the president, now the CEO of NAR, the actual works on the staff, who was supposed to retire next year, has retired early, and they've replaced them. And there's just it's the pile-on industry right now. And it's interesting, and I know a lot of you have reached out and asked me about my thoughts, and I gave a little bit of my thoughts yesterday when we were on our business plan training, and I think I'll go a little bit more in depth today. But for those of you who don't know, there was a thing, the Siltzer, Burnett, and Morrill class action suit, which happened in Missouri, which, just to kind of cut to the chase on all of this, what basically they were saying, they went in and they filed a class action suit against NAR and these other companies, a lot of other major companies, which I'm not going to name them all again. You guys are kind of familiar, and it really doesn't matter. It's just more about the overall industry. And honestly, once this whole verdict came out, they filed another suit against all the rest of the companies. Like, it's a money grab right now. But they basically came out, and the final verdict was that the jury came in and said that, our industry has been price fixing. We've been conspiring with each other to price fix for years, which, when you hear that and you're actually in the industry, you're not somebody who's on a jury listening to one group of attorneys argue against another group of attorneys. When you're just in the industry, you're like, what the heck are you talking about? First off, for these companies to conspire to price fix, it says a couple things. Number one, it says that everybody gets along and they're conspiring together. Nope. If you're in this industry, you know that that's not true. Most of these companies don't get along. Most of the, if you're in a real estate office and you leave that office and go to another office, normally that original office treats you like, you're dead to them, which is the craziest thing, but I've seen it happen so many times. They're certainly not conspiring together. These companies don't conspire with NAR or vice versa. A lot of times they don't even play nice together. And so also to say conspiring to price fixing, think about that word price fixing. In a world where you can negotiate with the person in front of you. You can negotiate one competitor against another, which, by the way, consumers do all the time. Hey, this person's willing to do it for this. Are you willing to do it for that? That's called sales. Like, you have to determine whether you're good enough to get what you deserve or not get what you deserve. That's what's called the open market. Okay, when a retail store goes and sells the exact same iPhone at every store for the same price, they're not price fixing, or at least nobody says they are, right? And so in real estate, where it's completely negotiable, the whole idea of price fixing, when you have competition, when you have different places that offer it at different prices, when there's different commission rates based on how good someone is or what they can get, when you have some people collecting 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, when you have discount brokers out there that any seller or buyer could use, when you can sell a home yourself, when you can represent yourself, I don't know how in the world you win a case saying price fixing. It's as if there's no option. It's like, just when I thought our world couldn't get any loonier, it's like, can someone just make this make sense? Can someone does anyone have common sense anymore? Does anyone? Or is everyone just a victim and everybody wins everything, and whoever seems to be on top at the moment is always the bad person we got to take down? Like, at some point, this culture of that nonsense has to stop. And you're now seeing it in the judicial system, which is insane. Like, it's absolutely insane for anybody who's in the industry. In the beginning, it was a joke. Everybody's like, there's no chance that could win. I mean, how could that be possible that could win? Price fixing. You can solve that really quickly. That person won't do that price. Well, that person will. Done. You can get a lower price. How is it price fixing when you can get a different price at different brokerages? It makes no sense. And at a time right now when it seems that the price of everything is going up, price of gas, price of food, price of goods, price of everything right now is going up. It's amazing how there's this attack on real estate people where they want real estate people to make less. And I don't know how the price of everything goes up, but Real estate, which, by the way, makes up 17% of the economy. Think about that for a second. It's 1/6 of the economy. How they're supposed to make less now and operate in a world where everything's just getting more and more expensive. And if you're listening to this and you're not in real estate and you're not whatever, I want you to think about if somebody came into your job and said, you're going to do exactly what you did before, but we're going to cut your rate, you know? And a lot of you hear this who are outside the industry and you go, well, they already make, I've already seen the comments on my TikTok, which TikTok's like the new Twitter. It's just a bunch of haters and, you know, whatever. And those people come in and all they do is talk about how realtors make too much and this and that. And I think people actually think that real estate people make the percent that they get, you know. And I'm not even just talking about taxes, you know, which they pay a high tax rate because they're an independent contractor. But I'm also talking about the amount that they pay just to be in business. Like, I think that people need to remember they're running a business. Just because they're under a brokerage, they are responsible. They're independent contractors. They're responsible for their expenses. When they drive you around, they pay for gas. When they market your property, they pay for, like, everything they do, they're paying for, okay? So they're not just collecting money. Like, it's like, oh, they're getting 5%. They're getting 6%. They're getting, no, they're not. They're getting 3%. They're getting 2. No, they're not. It's not that simple. And then a percentage on top of all that is going to their broker. So not only are they paying Uncle Sam, they're paying Uncle Remax, Uncle C21, Uncle Howard Hanna, Uncle ERA, Uncle, like whatever. Like they're like, it just gets split and split and split and split and split. And by the time you actually look at what a realtor is making, the average realtor makes less than what the average worker in America makes. Okay. Now the best ones are paid higher because they deserve to be paid higher. It's called capitalism, everybody. Okay. And so I think we need to relax a little bit here on thinking that they're just killing it. And are there people in our industry who make a lot of money? Yeah, but they deserve to. Are there way more people who make almost nothing? Yeah, there's a ton of those. Okay. And that's how it is in most industries. Like, let's just be clear about that. It's how it is in most industries. And I'll tell you, the companies that came out looking pretty good in this whole, I'm going to call it this whole mess, are companies like Remax and companies like Anywhere. You know, Anywhere that used to be Realogy that, you know, has Coldwell Banker and Century 21 and ERA and Better Homes and Gardens and all these different companies, they both settled. And I think if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, I think Anywhere settled for like $82.5 million and Remax settled for about $55 million, which sounds insane. Now, I know that a lot of you know that I am friends with most of the CEOs in our industry, but one of my good friends is Nick Bailey, the CEO of Remax. And, you know, I was doing a thing for their Remax University that goes out to, I forget what it is, like 117 countries or something. And he and I were doing we had a 4-hour drive to where we had to go. And I was asking him about all this stuff going on, and there's a lot of it I can't repeat and I won't repeat because it's just not worth, you know, it's not right, and I'm not going to give up any kind of confidence or privacy or anything like that. There's some stuff that remains between friends. But one of the things he did mention, which I think I can say, which is not a big deal, but it's just the truth, was when I was asking him, why did you guys settle? Because there's no merit in this, whatever. It really just came down to, from a business decision, it was eliminating risk and being able to move forward with consistency and not having to live in fear, because it didn't matter whether, you know, the suit was right or not. What mattered was, did they have a chance to win? And what was the downside if they lost? And we saw that where, you know, the damages were put at over $1.7 billion and potentially over $5 billion when you really look at that overall. And they didn't want any part in that. They were saying, let's just cut this right here. That's what settlement is called. Let's cut this, not have to worry about it. Let's lick our wounds and move on. And, you know, they made agreements where they were going to change their business practices and that kind of stuff, which really just came down to, you know, that a seller wasn't going to have to offer a buyer commission, which we'll talk about, where buyers weren't going to say that their services were free, because they're not free. They're being paid for by the seller, right? You know, all of that kind of stuff. And there's an argument, by the way, you could say that a buyer is still paying because they're adding it onto the price. And I'm not going to get into all that stuff right now. But the point is that Remax and Anywhere, I think, came out looking pretty good, although they still need the judge to approve the settlement they did. But if it did, it came out as a savvy business move, because they eliminated, or they eliminated that possibility of potentially billions of dollars, which now these other companies are on the hook for. You know, NAR and Keller Williams and these other companies that are, you know, it's a big nut they're having to cover. Like, it's a lot, okay? And so we'll see how that all plays out. Of course, it's going to get appealed, so it might be all for none. A lot of people are like, well, so what changes? I saw something in a group today. How are you explaining to sellers how how the buyer's getting paid? And somebody was like, well, I'm going to tell them that the buyers have to pay for their own. Guys, that's not true. All of this stuff that just happened, nothing's actually happened, okay? It is going to get appealed. It is going to take years. Chances are NAR and these companies are going to win, because there really is on a merit. It really doesn't, make sense. But even if they don't, we're talking years. It's not a drastic change. And I've seen agents go all the way from, all-out hysteria to burying their head in the sand and acting like nothing's happening. But I'll say again, real estate makes up 17% of the overall economy. So we can't afford for real estate to not be a viable option or a viable career or whatever it is. In the end, we're going to prevail. And so everybody just needs to take a breath, okay? Stop allowing everyone else to determine what you freak out about, okay? We always grab the worst of everything. Or we read the latest Inman headline, bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. My God, I felt like I was in Iraq the last 3 weeks with Inman's coverage of bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. It's like when Ted Turner invented the 24-hour news cycle, and whereas we used to really have breaking news, now in absence of any breaking news, every hour there's a new show, and they need breaking news. And so, for ratings, and in absence of breaking news, everything is breaking news because we need to be able to wait, this just in. There's a cow crossing the road in Missouri, and we haven't found out if it made it to the other side yet. More details to come. And it's just that's breaking news? What? But in absence of real breaking news, when you have a show every hour, you got to have breaking news. You got to have, whatever. And that's kind of how I feel about this. It's every little thing is and that's not burying our head in the sand. It's just really look at the facts of the case, okay? The only ones that won in this case were the attorneys, okay? If you don't believe that, just who benefited? Sellers didn't benefit, buyers didn't benefit, realtors didn't benefit. It's like a divorce, the only one who wins, the longer you can't come to an agreement, is the attorneys. They don't represent you. They represent the process taking longer. That's how it works in most cases. I hate to say that, guys, but you got to put your big boy pants on right now and just that's the reality of the world. Most of them are not repping, the actual client. They're repping the process taking longer. And in this situation, nobody won. There's, I guess they won technically, but it really it didn't benefit buyers and sellers. It didn't help them at all. Gave them another thing to complain about, allowed people to be a victim once again. Now we're victim of agents. Everybody's a freaking victim today. Now buyers and sellers who are selling their houses. So sellers are selling their houses at the highest prices they've ever seen in their life, but they're victims now. Now there's a new suit out, by the way, representing buyers. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a new suit out. We'll talk about that. It was filed immediately following. It's a money grab, okay? And so when you really look at it, what it really means is that sellers are not going to be required to offer buyer agents a commission. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. I'm not required to shower every day. I'm not required to put on shoes before I go out in public. I'm not required to close my mouth when I eat in front of people. But just the fact that I'm not required to do so doesn't mean I still don't do it, because it's in my best benefit to do it. Some things you don't need rules for. Okay, I want you to remember something. 98% of all transactions last year were bought from a buyer's agent bringing the buyer. 98% was a buyer agent bringing the buyer. 98%. So if a seller does not want to offer out a commission to the buyer, go for it, but good freaking luck. Because you may have a rule saying you don't have to, just but I don't need a rule to tell me what's good for me when selling my home. This is the way that it works. Now, can there be adjustments? Absolutely. Will there be innovation? Absolutely. There's been a lot of tech in our industry and everything else. But let's not think we need a rule for everything to make it happen. If the rule comes down, which is what they ruled, but again, it doesn't actually go into effect because it's going to get appealed and everything else. But if that happens, great. You don't have to offer out a commission. Good luck with that. Come on, guys. Buyers agents are bringing the buyers. If they're not getting offered a compensation, you say, well, they should pay for their own compensation. Okay. So for all of you that created all of these rules and all of these rules within real estate, around fair housing and around trying to make homes affordable and about trying to help minorities and poorer people and all of these rules to try to help people buy homes and all of these Fannie Mae and all of this stuff and FHA and everything to make housing more affordable. You are now going to turn around at the same time and say, by the way, when you're buying a house, on top of the percentage you're putting down, on top of the closing costs that you're now going to incur, on top of paying for an inspection, on top of all of these things, we're now going to add another 3% of it to your cost. And you think that's going to help people? You think that's going to help the housing market? You think that that is going to not unequally disenfranchise parts of our population more than others? Of course it will. Like, that's absurd. And so sometimes we get it's like victims end up eating their own. That's what always happens. You know, when you become a victim too long and you become, you know, whatever, it's like the whole woke thing. You know, it's like the woke go after everybody. And when they're on your side, you're like, hey, this is great. And then eventually the people who are on their side, the woke go after them too. And you end up eating your own. And it's just like nobody even knows who's on anybody's side anymore. Okay. And so it's the same kind of a thing. Sometimes you can victimize to such a level that after a while you actually go after the actual victims and you end up hurting everyone. And that is kind of how I see this right now. And the real irony in this, let's just talk about this for a second. The real irony in all of this, am I saying that right? Irony. The real irony in all of this, guys, is that the attorneys for the plaintiffs made the argument that realtors were price fixing while they themselves continued to collect their standard fee from their clients, the plaintiffs, which were negotiable, and those clients could have gone to someone cheaper, and they could have represented themselves, but it wasn't advisable. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Those attorneys were doing exactly what real estate people do, and then they argued against that process. Like, think about that for a second. You know, for those of you that aren't sure how you were supposed to respond to your clients when they ask you, you know, why the plaintiffs won or what it means or any of that kind of stuff, I want you to tell them a couple of things. Number one, you're correct. The plaintiffs didn't win because their case was right. They won because they won. Literally, it's because they won. It's because they were better than the defendant's attorneys, okay? The plaintiffs had a choice, and they chose to pay a premium for a group of first-rate attorneys when they could have used cheaper ones, or they could have just represented themselves. And the moral of the story is who you hire matters, both when hiring an attorney and when buying or selling a home. And that is what cracks me up about this whole thing, is that exactly what they're fighting against, exactly what they're arguing against, is exactly what they were operating in at the moment they were making the argument. Were they price fixing? I think, should NAR file a countersuit against the legal system and say, attorneys everywhere, we're going to file this against the National Bar. You are price fixing. We know that it's negotiable who you use. We know you can get lower rate or higher rate attorneys. We know you can even represent yourself in a court of law, but you are price fixing. And now there's precedence, because the very case you just argued and said we were and won, you're doing the exact same thing. So now there's precedence. Attorneys everywhere, you're price fixing. How interesting would that be? Like, imagine if NAR came back and actually did that and said, you want to play that game?
They should.
You're price fixing. You want to play that game?
Yeah.
If nothing else, just to stalemate them and say, you want to keep doing that? We'll make the same argument. Bring it to the same court. Let's go get those juries. Let's go get those jurors and say, hey, same thing. They're doing the exact same thing. Okay? It's absurd, guys. Like, it really is absurd. Okay? Moral of the story, who you hire matters when hiring an attorney and when buying or selling a home. Now, do you need to understand buyer agency on a deeper level now? Yes. Do you need to have a buyer agency agreement signed? Yes. Most areas already require that, and for those of you that don't require that, it's good to have anyway. You're working with someone, they're hiring you to buy the largest asset they're ever going to own. Look, it's not that difficult of a sell, okay? The listing agent legally has a fiduciary responsibility to who? The seller, not the buyer. So buyers need representation. You're going to buy the largest thing, the largest asset you're ever going to own, and the person representing the seller and the buyer has a legal responsibility to the seller, and that's okay? No. You need representation, okay? I had a listing agent say to me the other day, I was at an event, and she's like, I don't know what all the, whatever's about. I can show, I can rep everybody. I'll do dual agency. We don't even need buyer agents. They're a waste of time. They just get in the way. They just whatever. So I said to her, I think you're undervaluing buyer agents. There's a lot of arguments we can have there and a lot of the stuff you just said. I'm not going into it all. But I said, let's just get really simple. Who's showing the property every time? So when you have 57 showings on your listing, you're showing the house 57 times? I just want to make sure you're doing it, because I thought that was the very reason you got out of and you got into being primarily a listing agent. And you saw her kind of like, she hadn't thought of that. She's like, shoot, so we got to figure that part out. Like, we got to, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, come on. There's a value there. People need representation. It's so crazy, too, because we're a world right now that pushes for representation in everything. Having representation, and now we are making the very argument against representation, okay? It's insane. Like, it's insane. But yes, you're going to need to know how to get a buyer agency signed, why it's in their best benefit to use you. The truth is I feel really good. We started a company this year called FirstUp, F-Y-R-S-T, firstup.com, F-Y-R-S-T-U-P.com. If you're listening to this and you're a broker, you need this tool for your agents, especially right now. Like, as much as I'm arguing against this whole case right now, my God, is it good for my company, FirstUp? Because FirstUp is a tool within a brokerage. The whole brokerage uses it. Super simple. It's not one of these. It does 50,000 things, and they don't do anything with it. There's no adoption. What it does is it digitizes the traditional whiteboard. It digitizes the traditional whiteboard. And in the old days, what would happen is that agents would come in, you'd have a weekly meeting, and you'd all gather around the whiteboard, and it'd be like, here's what's coming on to market, here's what we have, and you'd go over all this stuff. And, traditionally how it works is the time between when a listing is taken and a listing goes on the MLS, that time in between in most places, you can't market it publicly because of clear cooperation, but you could market it within your brokerage. And so there was a real advantage within your brokerage at being at those meetings because you saw what was coming on. You saw what was, and sellers got traction before it ever hit the MLS. And buyers that were working with your buyer agents had the advantage of properties nobody else had access to. And here we are in this situation where you're probably going to need buyer agency agreements signed all over again. And what a better sell with your brokerage than for your agents to be able to say, hey, when you work with our brokerage, there's an actual advantage. We have a proprietary list of sellers that nobody else has access to that we're only allowed to show to you and anybody else. We can only show it to our customers. We can only show it to the people who sign up by our broker with us. You have all the other advantages. We have the MLS. We have everything. The seller in most cases is still paying the commission, but we can only show this to people that we actively work with that are clients of ours. What a better sell than that? Sign a buyer agency agreement with me. Nothing else changes, but we have a proprietary list of sellers nobody else has access to. And that's what a tool like FirstUp does for you and your brokerage. So if you're a broker listening to this, get on firstup.com, guys. Like, when I saw all this going down, I'm like, thank God we started this company. Like, that is perfect timing. FYRSTUP.com. You need to be able to give your agents a unique advantage in the marketplace that we're in right now. And more important than just a unique advantage, because I actually don't think that much changes right now, you need to be able to communicate a unique advantage. You need to be able to communicate to the marketplace a unique advantage. You need to be able to communicate to your agents why they're at your brokerage and what tools you're giving them to succeed in this marketplace, proving that value. And so that's one of the ways you do that, and we really can't be that shocked by what just happened, because when you have a jury that is making these decisions, juries are real people, guys. They're people who watch TV. They interact in the public space. They watch reality shows. And when you look at the public's idea of us as an industry, it makes sense. Like, they look at our industry and they see these reality TV shows where, nobody works. It's all just a bunch of social gatherings. Everybody's just drunk all the time. And once you get your real estate license, you immediately get bigger boobs. You get a better-looking spouse. You get a brand-new car, and you're rich. And so when you have a jury of your peers that is their idea of this industry, you can't be that shocked when they rule against the industry, which is really what they did. And when you have a lot of people in our industry that try to act and look like those reality shows, we can't be that surprised. And the good news is this, guys. This is where pros need to step up. This is a market for pros. Our whole advanced theme was pros versus amateurs. This is where pros need to step up. You are needed right now. You know, we have as an industry, we've been through a financial crisis. We have been through a pandemic where people were shut down and told they couldn't work, and just so many different. And now more than ever, we need to communicate our value, because when you really think about it, we went through a financial crisis, we went through a pandemic, and we are now going through something that when you really step back and take a breath, what it really means is that the day before that ruling, somebody could go on the MLS, an agent could put a property on the MLS and offer out $1 as buyer agency commission, and after that ruling, if it goes through, they can now offer $0. Think about what I just said. That's really what it is, because they're saying you don't have to offer it. Well, before they did have to offer it, so agents, when they wanted to do that, would offer $1. How did those sell? What buyer agent looked at it and went, $1? Well, Jiminy Cricket, I've been wishing upon a star I could make $1. You know, like, no. Okay, they may not have a rule where they're going to have to offer out compensation. But again, we don't need a rule to tell us to shower every day. We don't need a rule to tell us to act like human beings and, you know, whatever. Like, you don't need a rule, okay? So let's just put things in perspective, guys. Perspective is a powerful, powerful force, okay? You need to protect your peace right now. Protect your peace. Like, your peace is under attack right now. I shot an Instagram video the other day. I hope a lot of you watched it. And I said, you know, whenever outside forces are trying to tell you where to focus, be careful, because it's a great magician trick. Pay no attention to my other hand, okay? And that's a lot of what's happening right now is here's where we want you to focus. Here's where we want you to focus. And your focus is everywhere other than where it should be, which is on yourself, what you can control, what you can do to win right now, what you could do to separate yourself from your competition, and what you can do to win right now. And the majority of people at the sound of my voice are going to get distracted, and they're going to focus on everything that everybody else tells them they should focus on. And then the few, they're going to get with their coach, they're going to make a plan, they're going to use tools like FirstUp, they're going to get their TC, their transaction coordinator, they're going to create leverage within their business, they're going to run an actual business. And while everyone else is distracted, they're going to take land, they're going to take property, they're going to take area, because the people in my community that have a coach and do the right things, you know, they'll succeed last year, they'll succeed this year, they'll succeed next year, they'll succeed 10 years from now. Will things change? Yeah. Things will change, but that's fine. We're good with things changing. We adjust with them. You know, there's always two businesses you're working in. You're working on the business you're in, and you're working on the business that you're going to be in. That's called change, and that's okay. We're not afraid of change. We're not denying change. We're also saying don't buy into everything changing overnight and these fear tactics and going crazy to this side and crazy to that side, because that's not true either. We're in an industry in the U.S. alone that has lost over 100,000 agents since January, and we probably still have too many agents. Think about that, okay? We've lost over 100,000 agents since January, and we probably have too many agents still. And for me, that's an example of not an industry shrinking. That's an example of an industry pruning. It needs to prune. You know, a good plant to grow needs to prune, not die off, prune. You got to get rid of some stuff in order to grow and grow back bigger and better. And that's how I look at our industry right now. It needs some pruning, okay? And if you're smart enough to be someone who listens to this podcast, follows me, you're probably one of the ones that should still be in the industry. You educate yourself. You put your education first. You learn what it is you need to do. You invest. You know, if you're one of our students, my God, you're a coaching student, you use one of our TCs, you use our marketing, you use FirstUp, you use, like, all the guys, you invest in yourself. You deserve to be here. You deserve to be here. You need to remember that. But this is not over. You know, right after that class action suit was won, those same people immediately followed a suit towards a bunch of other large real estate companies you know. And right after that, those exact same people, same attorneys, same people, same everything, same people who just fought for sellers, then filed another suit on behalf of home buyers. Think about that. It's a money grab. And I just read an article about this, and it said that home buyers are getting in on the action after the Sitzer-Burnett trial verdict and accusing a slew of real estate companies of engaging in a conspiracy to inflate buyer costs. So now we're price fixing on the seller side and inflating buyer costs on the other side. Because God knows it helps our industry when we inflate buyer costs, when we make it more difficult for buyers to purchase. Oh, it makes it so much easier. That makes a lot of sense. But what we just learned here is that it doesn't have to make sense in order for them to win. Okay, they just need to have better representation because who you hire matters. But we should go after them for price fixing, in my humble opinion. Okay, 7 home buyers, led by Maya Batten, filed a federal antitrust lawsuit November 2nd seeking class action status against Compass, EXP World Holdings, Redfin, Weichert Realtors, United Real Estate, Howard Hanna Real Estate, Douglas Elliman in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division. They did not name NAR in this one, which is interesting. Defendants' unlawful, anti-competitive conduct causes America's home buyers to pay inflated commissions for broker services they misrepresent as free, to pay inflated prices for the homes they purchase, and to receive reduced quality broker services. In the complaint states, adding later, plaintiffs and the other class members have each incurred at least thousands of dollars in overcharges as a result of the defendant's conspiracy. What's interesting about this, think about what I just said. They said they continue to pay inflated prices for the homes they purchase. So what they're saying is they're inflating the cost by adding in the price, the cost into the price of the home. So what is the alternative? That they should take that money out of their own pocket and pay it? Boy, that sounds like a great alternative. Tom, you bought a house, right? How about if you did not get to buy it, the seller did not make it as part of what they offer out, and you had to come up with another 3%? How would that have helped your position?
Yeah, it wouldn't have. I'm just gonna be real honest with you about that. It just wouldn't have. Yeah, no.
You're going to take a lot of people out of the buying pool when
Yeah.
you do that. Okay,
It's
this is
already
what I was
difficult
talking about.
enough.
Like, it's just victims attacking victims. You're just going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, interesting. Anyway, a lot going on. What else is going on? I know it's kind of a heavy topic we just covered, but we have had some big things that have happened, guys. There's Zillow just purchased FirstUp Boss for, ready for this? $500 million. Half a billion. FirstUp Boss was just at our advance.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just charged them more.
should have. 500 million.
I'm just playing. So congrats to them getting purchased by Zillow. Honestly, for Zillow, it makes sense. I know a lot of you can't stand Zillow, but they have a right to do business. By the way, they've been doing business better than most realtors over the years, which is why they keep winning. So we can keep getting angry at them, or we can look at what they're doing and copy it. Because we're like, oh, they're moving end to end in the transaction. Yup. I mean, guys, it's clear now. You got a database now. FirstUp Boss, one of the largest in the industry. They bought Loop, transaction management. They bought Showing Time. So they control. They have a mortgage. I mean, guys, they are going end to end. There's no doubt about it anymore. Okay, but you can get mad at them and try to compete, which you're not going to compete with the amount of money they have and everything else. You should probably buy stock in them, even if you hate them. You probably don't hate making money. But you need to look at what they're doing right now. They're going end to end in the transaction. How do you do that? Okay, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. Okay, when you look at all the services that I'm offering, not just coaching and training, right? But you got transaction management. We did the CRM at one point, but decided we wanted someone else to do that. We got FirstUp. We just purchased a company called Broker Assist. We've got marketing. What are we doing? We're offering you services to go end to end. That's what we're doing. When we teach you team basis and having all these structure and having all these different bases covered and whatever, we are teaching you to go end to end, just like they're doing, only they're doing it better than you, okay? Because it's what the consumer wants. A consumer doesn't go into a car dealership and say, hey, sell me a car, also wash my car, also do my financing. Also, I'd like you to fix the pipe when something's gone wrong. I'm going to bring that. Also, good. Like, guys, end to end. But the dealership overall will offer all those things. It's just not the individual that offers it. The problem with most of us is that we're the individual trying to act like that. What you need to do is you need to become the dealership, right? What did who was it at the Advance I interviewed? I'm forgetting which one said it right now. But we were joking around, and she said that I made a joke years ago, and I said, if all you're doing is collecting commissions as a real estate agent, you're a highly paid Las Vegas stripper. And she said she heard that, and she's like, what? Because I said, hey, you got to do the job to get, in order to get the money. Like, it's just, you got to close in order to get, like, you're a highly, whatever. And she's like, at first she was offended, and then she was like, well, wait a second, though. Like, maybe that actually makes sense. And then she detailed on the stage how she has this now, she has that, and she has a title company, and she has insurance, and she has all these different parts of her team and everything else. I said, so what are you now? And she goes, well, I'm the club owner now, And it was this funny statement, but it was absolutely true. It was like, yeah, that makes sense. There you go. Good for you. That's exactly right, right? And so we got to be the club owner, guys. It's a ridiculous example, but you'll remember that. We got to be the club owner. Learn from these companies. Don't get angry at them. Learn from them, because there is an arms race going on right now. There's an arms race right now. You're all paying attention to Zillow. You're not even paying attention to CoStar. Like CoStar dominated the commercial real estate space. They had LoopNet. You guys heard of LoopNet? It's where everybody goes for their commercial buildings, right? But then they got involved in the residential game, and they own Homes.com. And slowly but surely, we've all been looking at Zillow versus Realtor.com, Zillow versus Realtor.com, and this big portal race, as far as what's been going on. And no one was paying attention to, coming up from the side, here comes CoStar. And you know who just took over number 2 in the portal race as far as number of viewers? Homes.com, or number of visitors to their site for home search? You guessed it, Homes.com. Realtor.com is falling behind now. Realtor.com just posted a double-digit loss in their quarterly revenue year over year. And you know why? It's because Realtor.com keeps doing and making decisions based on what they think is best for the realtor. And these other companies who are not connected, like Zillow and like CoStar, they're making decisions based on what's best for the consumer. And as long as they keep doing that, they're going to win. And you need to look at your own business in the same way and say, how do I do what's best for the consumer? Because that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. I've been saying everywhere lately, we are in the economy of convenience. Consumers are making decisions based on convenience. And you need to look at, how is it that I make this more convenient? Because there's this arms race going on, and everybody's focusing on the wrong things. But my God, CoStar's coming right now. Like they're Zillow's needs to be looking at it. And Zillow's doing, like I said, Zillow's going end to end too. It's crazy to see what's going on there. So, long story short, guys, there is just so much going on right now. So much to pay attention to. I know that lately I've been taking these podcasts, and I have Linda on, and we joke around, and she calls my lake a pond, and everybody thinks it's funny, and the whole thing, right? But I felt like this was more of like, we got to cover these things. I get a lot of messages from you guys. What are my thoughts? So those are my thoughts. I got more, but those are my thoughts for right now. I'm watching everything. I'm not worried at all. I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I'm not worried at all. We will survive. We will, advance. We will continue doing what we're doing. We'll adjust. We'll pivot. We'll, all of that stuff, But everybody take a breath. Protect your peace. Everything's going to be okay, okay? For most people. For those that are prepared. For those that are ready. For those that are, like I said, they have a coach. They have a TC. For those that are ready, it's all good. For the rest of you, but look, this is nothing new. 87% of people are out of the industry in 5 years anyway. So it's not like this is like, oh my God, Armageddon. Almost 90% of you leave within 5 years anyway. This isn't some new thing. Okay, there's a high turnover in this business. Okay, one of the reasons why I do so much entrepreneurial content on my platforms is because I know that the majority of realtors that follow me end up not being realtors anymore. I still got to give them content that they want to hear. It's because almost 90% of them are in and out. So. That's my feelings on these things. Is there anything else we need to cover, Tom? Anything else you want to go over?
I don't
Anything
think
lighthearted that we could potentially?
Yeah, I know, because we started this with Matthew Perry dying.
I know.
And then
oh, God. You're right.
I know.
Holy moly. Come on, there's got to be something lighthearted we could talk about. Something. Something, Tom.
I mean, the holidays are coming up. I don't know.
That is true.
That is true. I mean, we're a little bit away from.
You're a big Christmas holiday person,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, big
I
time.
love Christmas. My son, my younger son, listens to Christmas music all year long.
Love it.
I love bring out a little Nat King Cole.
Sure.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love decorating my house for Christmas. You guys, when you see like my live streams and stuff, you'll see that on there. By the way, I kind of mentioned it quickly. We just did our business plan live stream, business plan training. It's on Facebook. It's on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. You can download the business plan and the business plan tracker at jaredjamestoday.com/business plan. It's all free for you. Okay. Obviously, we hope to get you in our programs and such because we want to help you, but I give you as much free stuff as I possibly can. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
What else? Any other lighthearted anything? Something, Tom.
No, I think everything's terrible, isn't it? Isn't
No,
that?
no, it's not.
That's what.
It's actually not. It's a funny thing, right? There's all these things going on in the industry and all these like really like heavy, whatever. And like obviously when I talk about these things, it's a little heavier and I have to be a little bit more serious and whatever. But like personally, I said this at the advance, I feel like I've never been better. Like I'm not like contrary to this episode right now. I've not been heavy lately. Like I'm not, like my son is in one of my sons is in they just won the second round. For those of you who are on the business plan training wondering, they just won in the second round of the state tournament. They move on this weekend to the third round. A lot of people are asking me, am I going to NAR? It all depends. If they win on Saturday, I'm not going to NAR. I'm canceling because then they'll move on to the semis and potentially the finals. If they lose, I will be at NAR. So now you guys get to be in the unique position of either rooting against my child, if you want me to be at NAR, or vice versa, the other way around. But that's a lot of fun. My other son's playing football. His season's ending up right now, so that's going to come to a close. But I've just been, I've gone through a really, really busy time, and I feel like that's always the case, though. Took a little bit of a break after the advance.
Mm-hmm.
I think less than a week later, I was going to do an event. But a little bit of a break. I posted something on my social channels. People ask me, like, what do you do after the advance? Do you just go to an island for a week? Do you go? There's a part of me that one day I will do that. But right now, I still have kids in high school. So honestly, what I do is I rush home. And I go to games, and I hang out with them, and I do, like, that's how I recharge. Like, that's what I like to do. You're only going to get so much more time before that's no longer a thing, and so I want as much time with them as I can possibly have. Linda comes back with me, and we just kind of hang out, and she brought her kids into town. They met my kids for the first time.
Nice.
Now, I mean, they do FaceTime all the time, but like they actually met in person. It's such an interesting dynamic because my kids are like bigger than me, and then her kids are not. They're younger.
God, I wish they were.
Yeah, I know, right? They're 7 and 10. Like, they're younger, And so that was a really cool experience. I was so proud of my kids because they're so good at, like, they know what their role is. They know their job is to, like, make these kids have a good time. And, and so they're, sometimes you get teenagers and they just they don't really care about anybody else. And they're just like, screw this, I'm not whatever. I'm so lucky that, like, my kids are not like that at all. And so they, looked forward to it. They made it an enjoyable experience. We went and picked some apples and did some fun stuff. We hung out with some friends and had a blast. Linda got a matching tattoo with some of our best friends.
It's a bummer that she's not here. We could have talked. We could have had a.
We'll probably talk about it on, before we even got matching tattoos, they have matching tattoos. It's just it's a tiny little cross like on their ankle. That's something we could. Are you a tattoo person?
I am not. No, I mean
I've never been.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like my jeans from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear from people who are watching right now. Are you into tattoos? I get it. So we dressed up on Halloween as everybody was wondering what we were. We posted on there. I was David Beckham and she was Victoria Beckham. And I got online on Amazon. And I got these sleeves for tattoos. We did it all up. I get it. It's a cool look. I just don't know that I want it there 20 years from now.
Right.
That's my fear.
Yeah.
Now, I have always said I'll never get a tattoo. I will say that, like, my kids we've always called each other the Wolf Pack, me and my two boys. My kids brought up the idea the other day of like, would you ever get like a small wolf? We all get it in the same spot. I feel like I'm a sucker for that.
That's not bad.
I feel like that's kind of like
That's
me
not
and my
bad.
two boys, like
Yeah.
Wolf Pack, like do like a thing. We're all, I mean, how do I say no to that?
I don't think you can.
So it's a possibility.
So what you're saying is all three of you matching wolf neck tattoos.
Oh, I was going to do like a stamp tramp. A tramp stamp. Tramp stamp?
Yeah,
Tramp
tramp stamp. Yeah.
Tramp stamp. I was going to put it like right across my back.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Great idea.
I was going to have the wolf lying down
Yeah.
so that it's nice and,
Yep.
long and just
Yeah.
put it right across the bottom of my back.
Yeah.
You think it's a great idea?
Oh, I think that's actually the only idea.
That, or I was going to go neck or face.
Yeah.
Like a big howling wolf
Right.
on the side of my face.
Yeah.
Give me a little street cred.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson's doing better than ever. Everyone knows it's because he got a face tattoo.
100%.
That was the best decision of his life.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what we learned from that.
Mhm.
So maybe something like that.
Nice.
Maybe. Is there any situation where you would ever get a tattoo?
I don't know. It's just I have nothing against tattoos. My wife has tattoos. It's for me it's a little
Oh, that's
bit
interesting.
Yeah, it's a little too permanent for me. In my opinion, I would rather spend the money and get a T-shirt. I think I can appreciate that a little bit more for me personally. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know that I am committed enough to anything where I would put something somewhere.
Aaron
forever.
Rodgers comes to you. Aaron Rodgers comes to you and he says, "You're the greatest Green Bay Packer fan of all time. I want to get matching Green Bay helmets on whatever."
Yeah,
You are telling me, as an owner of the Packers,
I am.
as you are,
I am. Yes.
are you telling me that you say, "A-Rod, A-Ron,
Yeah,
A-Ron"? That's what we'll go with.
that's right.
Are you telling me that you're going to be like, "A-Ron, sorry,
Well,
no can do"?
First of all, Aaron who?
Oh,
I
that's
don't-
right.
I don't
Because he
think-
left. He
I
left
don't
the
think he's
Packers,
on.
so now you're.
It's not my.
Are
not
you
my-
going to act like you wouldn't say yes to that?
Yeah, I don't know. It would mean a little bit less now, I think, just to be honest.
I'm not hearing a no. Still, I'm still not
it's
hearing
a
a no.
probable no, just to be honest.
Bullcrap.
Yeah.
I'm calling bullcrap on that.
I mean,
You're so full of nonsense, Tom. Tom, if Aaron walked in here and wanted a matching Green Bay Packers helmet tattoo with you, so help me God, stop lying to our listeners right now. Okay, you
I don't
would
know.
do it.
I might snap out of it, to be honest with you. I might snap out of the resentment that I have in my heart.
Do you have a lot of resentment?
Not a lot, but enough. You know what I mean? Like I respect it. I understand, I guess, sort of enough, but it's just
Do you like your new quarterback?
he's fine. I don't think
Would you take what's his name, Love?
Yeah,
Would you take Love or my guy, Russell Wilson?
Love. Yeah.
Why so quick and so what?
Well, because Love is starting his career.
Russell Wilson has much better stats this year.
He did this year. Yeah. What about in 5
Love
years?
he might not even be in the league in 5 years. Love.
Neither. What about Wilson?
He might be loving unemployment. That's what he'll be loving. Okay, what are you talking about? They're gonna change his name to Like. He's gonna go so far down the roster.
Friend.
Yeah, exactly. Did you just bring up Matt Perry again?
Oh.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, it was fitting that we began with friends and we end with friends.
Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
It is true though. That did make me feel really old.
Yeah.
Seeing that go down. But I will say, I saw the reunion this past year.
Yeah.
Some have aged better than others.
Yes.
You know, like what's his name? Ross.
Yeah.
He looked
Great.
like a little older Ross.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
He looked fine.
Yep.
And then the ladies aged like what's her name? Lisa Kudrow.
Mm-hmm.
She looked
Fine.
completely
Yeah.
good. I've never like a lot of the Hollywood stars, the ladies in particular, they start doing so much work. I don't like the later on look.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
It's a little tough.
They try to stay young, but all they stay is plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And I like at some point, I don't know if it just happens slowly and they don't realize it, but someone's got to get them and say, "This is where this goes."
Yeah.
Don't you get it?
Yeah.
Like it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
To me, they do so much to their face. They start to. This is a weird example, but they start to look like the Cowardly Lion
Yeah.
from the Wizard of Oz. They just have this look about them where they keep doing stuff, and I'm just like, whoa, you gotta stop this.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah.
It's like okay to age.
It
I
really
actually
is.
like aging. Like I actually think that it's like I think that's more attractive.
Yep.
And then, I don't know. There's probably a lot of ladies right now that disagree with me, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
I'll be doing whatever. But it's just, for me, I don't know. I like, to each their own.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, I thought she looked really good, but Matthew Perry's one who didn't look good.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's just a lot of just, I don't know, not taking care
But
of
if you
yourself.
talk to him, he was healthier now than he was back
100%.
then. Because he was
100%.
saying he was like doing coke or something all the time, or
All
whatever
the
he was
time.
doing, like
Yeah.
pretty much everything.
Yep.
But then even the way he was talking, he sounded like he had already had a stroke or something. But I think he did have some kind of a, he had some kind of an issue a couple years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I don't remember what it
exactly
was, but there
yeah.
was something. Oh, and they literally like gave him like an almost no % chance of living back then.
Right.
And then they did some emergency thing, and he had like I guess 5 people had it done at the same time in the hospital. 4 of them died, and he survived. So that's awesome. Like, that's whatever. I will say. So Linda posted a story of like something he wrote one time that I thought was beautiful. And he talked about how he talked about drug addicts, because he was one. He is one. Well, not anymore, but he like up until whatever. And he basically said that if you ever need me, if you ever whatever, I will always come and help you, and I always will tell you what to do, even if I can't do it for myself. Like, in other words, he's saying I have no control. I try to think I do, but I don't. But I'll be there to help you. I guess he even opened his home to people to like help them. He did whatever, and he wrote this really beautiful thing where he said at the end of my life when I die. It's always sad when you hear about people writing about them and then they're dead.
Yep.
Because it's not real when they're writing it. And he said, when I die, you're all going to talk about friends. You're all going to talk about whatever. And he's like, and I'm very happy with how much joy I was able to bring to you and everything else. But at the end of the day, he's like, I wish you would talk about what I did that really mattered, which is I opened my home to these people, and I did everything I could to help, and I did, whatever. I always thought that was I saw that, and it was kind of touching. Even though I was never, like, personally connected to him. Like when Kobe Bryant died, that affected me. I don't know why, but it did. When Robin Williams died, I don't know why, but it affected me.
Yeah.
When, like, there's just these people that when they pass, you're just like, you feel so. I didn't feel connected to him, other than I felt connected to that time frame, the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh, God, like, I watched that. Whatever. But anyway, I thought that was a beautiful – I'm butchering the quote.
That's pretty much it,
The
yeah.
sentiment in it, though, I thought was really nice.
Yeah.
To know that, this is what I'm trying to do, and I understand that you're all always going to look at the show, but that was not – for him, he looked at the show, and he thought of himself being a drug addict.
Right.
That was – we'll end here, but that was another thing I saw. I saw it in an interview where he was talking about how they were at the reunion, and they were watching clips of the show, and everybody was laughing and having a good time, and they were like, this is so great. And they went to him, and he looked sad, and he goes, I'm trying really hard to enjoy this, but you have to understand, when I look at that man, he's like, that's a broken man.
Yep.
That's a man who was doing drugs in the back and hiding it. That's a man who, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yep.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah.
All right, so we begin heavy, and we end heavy.
Yep. Is what it is.
All right, guys. So we'll get back to doing podcasts again. Like I said, took a little break for the advance and some other things. I might be at NAR. A lot of you have asked if I'll be at Atlantic City for Triple Play in New Jersey, Atlantic City. I'm not speaking there this year. I've talked to some of our coaches from the area. I might come in just to come in and see everybody. I'm not sure. We'll see about that. But as I always say, guys, love you guys to death. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a 5-star. Unless you don't like the podcast, then don't do anything. But love you guys. We'll get back to doing this. Make sure you're on. Go to connectwithjared.com. Connect on all the platforms, guys. I'll see you soon. Thanks.
See you.